Happy Friday afternoon. It's Jim with the Brewers Association of Maryland. I'm going to be joined today by Brett out at Antietam Brewery. I realized in the intro there I actually put Antietam Brewing Company, and just to keep everything on the up and up, I think they prefer Antietam Brewery. So I just wanted to clarify that. Hope everybody's having a great week. The weather's beautiful today. Sorry if I'm a little hurried, and I'm sorry that we're a little late. I was out at Forward Brewing in Eastport today. They did a release of Home Brute, which is a Brute IPA that they are releasing as part of the Brew for BAM series of beers that was going on throughout the last year to help support the Brewers Association of Maryland. If you are in Anne Arundel County or driving by Anne Arundel County at all this weekend and you want to check them out, Forward Brewing Company is a beautiful place, really great beers, and the Home Brute IPA that we tasted today was phenomenal. It's available on draft. They were filling growlers of it. So if you don't mind going out and showing your support for BAM, check out Forward and see what they're doing. We also have a Brew for BAM release coming tomorrow from our friends out at Brewery Fire. They've got the Carroll County Common, which is a common style beer, also known as a steam beer in some circles. And they will be raising some money through their tips for the Brewers Association of Maryland. I hear there's a little bit of a competition. I think Jesse and Dave are trying to see which one of them is the better beer slinger. And whoever makes the most money gets to serve the other one a dish of their disliking. So I think it's going to be an interesting time. If you get a chance to get out to Brewery Fire tomorrow, please go and visit them. They would love to see you. That beer is going to be a lovely one. It's made with locally grown hops and locally malted malt, and obviously local water from Brewery Fire. So go check everybody out who's doing their best to support BAM. We appreciate your support, and just show your love for Maryland beer this weekend. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Brett from Antietam. Brett, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you, man?
I'm well, thank you. It's great to see you. Sorry we're not in person. This whole COVID thing is wrapping up, but I think we'll still keep these virtual engagements going as long as we can.
Well, I'm not wearing pants, so it's all for the better.
Well, that's good. I don't know that OSHA would love.
I'm at work, and there's a pants rule, so
OSHA would not love to hear that.
Yeah, everything's on the up and up.
So, how are things? How's your week going?
It's been a busy week. This is the season when things really pick up because in addition to brewing our own stuff, we do contract for some people, and they have a lot of outdoor seating, and that outdoor seating is opening up now. So we were busy this week. We're actually going to be doing 8 brews next week, and that's probably going to be the order of business for until winter rolls back around and rears its ugly head again. So it's good to be busy. Good to have stuff to do.
Absolutely. So let's start off with kind of introducing who Antietam Brewery is, what you guys have come from, where you are right now, and kind of what you're doing. It's not the same story that it's always been. It's not a pub anymore.
No. It started off. The owner owns a pub in Hagerstown called Benny's, and everything started off there on a very, very tiny scale, and they enjoyed a lot of great success. Hagerstown was really thirsting for its own brewery, and no pun intended. So they were able to grow into the space we're in now about 2.5 years ago, going on 3 years ago. And we are a 15-barrel brewery now that has undergone in the last year and a half 3 expansions in the cellar. And like I said, adopted some contract brewing, and our sales of our house stuff is really taken off, and we have a great team here that's committed to the vision. And it's really one of those rags to riches stories. It was a big bang. We got something from what started off as infinitesimal, and it's really impressive, and it's really cool to be a part of.
It was the absolute perfect time, I think, for that expansion to occur. If you look at how the boom in craft beer was working.
Definitely the timing was on their side without a doubt. And, it's funny because it was at a time when craft beer was booming, but regional breweries were kind of becoming less of a thing, and hyper locality was becoming a big thing. And fortunately, Hagerstown is a pretty tightly knit city. They're kind of proud of, where they're at and who they are. They're called the hub city because a lot of highways meet here. 70 and 81 especially. And so they were really looking for something really local, and we were able to just plug that huge gap. So we really hit it when the iron was hot to be a hyper local brewery. But Not to say we don't sell well out of Hagerstown, but Hagerstown really is. They proudly support us, and we're really grateful for that.
Well, and you've got a great thing going there. You've got food on site. You've got outdoor space. You've got kind of everything that everyone's asking for, and you're highly visible from the interstate. So that makes life very easy.
And we're next to the sheriff's. We're next door to the sheriff's department, so everything's safe here. But yeah, we are actually expanding our outdoor space right now. We broke ground on that. We're going to have a full awning out there, huge live music space. That's part of the growth here. We've actually, we used to be only open until March 9th. We were only open Thursday through Sunday, but now we're open Tuesday through Sunday with expanded hours. People have, our customers have really shown up at the plate, and and the on-site food, George, our chef, and Max, his cook, have just been making phenomenal stuff. And we have, for a place that's a little two-man tasting room, you'd be surprised at the kind of food you get here. And that's even expanding. There's a carport out back that's going to become Bambalambq, which is George's barbecue spot. And we have a trailer smoker, and he's going to start smoking a whole lot of animal parts. And there's going to be a whole lot of happy bellies around here.
Hagerstown is thirsting for good barbecue. Sadly, in the last few months, my location that I used to love there, Hempen Hill, announced that they closed.
Oh, yeah, man. It's been tough, man. It's been tough.
You're a face that many people in the Maryland beer scene would recognize. So why don't we talk a little bit about Brett? Who are you? Where did you come from? And what are you doing at Antietam?
Well, I was born in a medium-sized city in Kansas in 1972. But that's probably going too far back. Lawrence, for anybody who's wondering.
I've been there once.
What's that?
I've been there once.
Oh, have you really? It's actually a great town. I went to college in Manhattan, Kansas, which is where I started brewing back in 1996. And I used to like to visit Lawrence a lot. It was the big city compared to Manhattan. Yeah, that's where I started brewing, was in college. I really just got lucky and tripped into a brewing job at a place called Little Apple Brewing Company out in Manhattan. Manhattan, Kansas, Little Apple, Manhattan, New York, Big Apple. Things just kind of took off from there. I went to another brewery in Lawrence, actually. Little Apple is actually still around. They're moving right along. I went to another brewery in Lawrence that is no longer with us, and then came back to Little Apple to be the head brewer at the ripe old age of 24. Which in the 90s you could do. It's hard to be a 24-year-old head brewer now. There's a lot of competition. On my 25th birthday, I arrived at Woodland, California to do the American Brewers Guild program, which was 6 weeks of sheer bliss. It was a lot of fun. And then I got this crazy idea in my head that maybe I'd like to have a brew pub one day, and applied to and enrolled in the Culinary Institute of America in 2000 in their baking and pastry program, and graduated from there 3 years later, and spent 10 years actually baking for a living in hotels and restaurants, and actually was a culinary school instructor at New England Culinary Institute for a part of that. I'm so sorry, I forgot to turn that off. And then as often happens in the culinary industry, burnout kind of set in. I got very lucky when I moved back to Maryland that Growlers in Gaithersburg needed a brewer. And I was working for Matt Hagerman, who a lot of Virginia brewers know. Maybe too many Maryland brewers don't remember him, but he is one of the owners of Lost Rhino Brewing down in, I thought I turned that off. Lost Rhino Brewing down in Ashburn, Virginia. And he said, "Hey, man, I'm standing up the fermenters in my place. Do you want to take over?" And again, just got lucky, tripped into a brewing job, and spent 3 years at Growlers just doing some of the most fun work I've ever done. We built a pilot brewery there and did some of the earlier experimental stuff that you'll see. And moved on from there, across the Potomac to go to Vintage 50 in Leesburg, and spent a year and a half there until they decided to shutter, and did some consulting for places like Mustang Sally Brewing in Virginia and some other places. And when I decided it's time to, when my girlfriend said, please get a real job or I'll kill you. A friend of mine told me about the opportunity here at Antietam, and I landed here a couple of years ago, and it's been a blast. I've had
That's
a
great.
great time. So, yeah, I've had a pretty charmed adult life. I've either made beer or bread for a living, and I seriously have no right to complain.
And you were able to keep some of the same ingredients across both professions. That's fun.
That's why I went with baking. I stuck with fermentation. I stuck with what I knew. And as a matter of fact, while I was at Kansas State, I took a year of baking science there because they actually have a baking science program. And I figured I'd find out how the other half of the fermentation world runs. And it was a complete blast. It was total nerddom.
I'm sure it was like totally enlightening and really fun to kind of see that process through on a perspective that has nothing to do with making beer.
It was, and especially when you're surrounded by such experts on the subject, it's like watching a movie about fermentation every time you go to class because you have these incredible global class lecturers just telling you everything they know about everything, and it was really neat.
How long did ABG do their courses on the West Coast? I thought they were only located in Vermont.
They started off in California. They were headquartered in Davis, and they had a teaching building in Woodland, about 10 miles from Davis. And I don't know when they switched over. It was in the early 2000s when Steve Parks took over as the sole proprietor, and they became an online company based out of Vermont.
Yeah, it was like a residency program that like overlaps with the online deal or something, I think.
But for our younger viewers, there was a century before the current one we're in. And in 1997 is when I went to the guild. So it was a while back.
Very cool.
Yeah, a lot longer than I like to admit.
So some of the things that we tend to talk about a little bit with each of these episodes is kind of getting a feel for what the philosophy is in the brewery there. I think you guys have a really wonderful opportunity to catch a taste of everybody's brewing philosophy with all of the contract stuff that you're doing. So
yeah,
what kind of aligns the Antietam brand with its own identity? And then how are you guys ensuring that you're being true to the brands that you're producing under contract?
Well, like a lot of people who know me in the brewing business know that I am very old school, a little hard-headed about it, and very purist. But we brew things that aren't like that here. But the mark of being a professional is you do what's best for the customer. And our customers have a standard they want us to meet, and we do our best to meet or beat that standard. So, when we get some, really crazy thing that's outside of really our wheelhouse, it's not about us, and we don't make it about us. We respect the customer, we respect the idea. So really, there's no clash between the two brand identities between us and a contract client. As far as our own brand identity, we are not the hypest brewery out there. I say that, and I have a can of pineapple mango sour next to me. But we have core beers like red ale, a Hefeweizen, a brown ale that are really fundamentally sound, old school, fun to drink, sessionable beers that characterize us. And then we branch out to make some hazies and some really good fruit beers. And the way we kind of set ourselves apart from maybe some other places is we really try to make them beer first. We try not to be a liquid lollipop kind of brewery. And I've had that ethic. That was something I probably said early in my brewing career, as often as my own name, is no liquid lollipops. And we don't do that here. And Aaron, the director of brewing operations, is the same way. We have really similar ideas. So, it's a beer first, and it's a beer with some sort of good, wholesome flavoring in it second. So, fundamental soundness, technical soundness is, I think, what really characterizes us as a brand, without a doubt.
I think that that's something that we're very fortunate to see many of our state's breweries shooting for first, is their ability to produce something of quality that meets the mark of a good beer, rather than just everything being something that is a whack-a-mole at the flavor of the day. It may feel that way walking around and looking at tasting room menus or beer boards in tasting rooms. But when you think about it, the majority of the breweries are focused on quality first, because if you screw up that opportunity to hook the drinker the first time, they're never coming back.
Well, and I think Maryland is interesting in that Maryland beer drinkers, especially in that they want to know you can brew. And so you have to have a couple of beers on your menu that prove that. And, even the hypest of the breweries out there will surprise you sometimes, and they'll release a Dunkel or something like that because they want people to know, hey, we're not cartoonists here. We actually are artists, and we know what we're doing. And that's not a dig on cartoonists. I'm just saying everything they do isn't an animated, overblown, caricature of things. They really want people to know that they understand brewing. Right. And Maryland's great about that. And Antietam, I think, is especially great about that, which is why you might not see us all over the Facebook groups and stuff like that as much as other breweries, but why we have such loyal customers that help us grow like crazy and allow us to make things that we're really proud of.
I think that's a great point. I think it's awesome to acknowledge what the consumer is responsible for and how they are demanding beers that meet a specific mark also. We're fortunate that our consumer base here, and as this industry is growing, the consumer is becoming less and less interested just in flash. They want to make sure that the flash has some merit to it.
Right. And, and Billy, when I had the pilot and Justin's in the room at Growlers, we had no rules on that. But that was where we confined it to. And you got to be able to, as a brewer, ask yourself those crazy questions like, what happens if I do X? And there are some questions where if you're an educated brewer, if I do X, I will get garbage. But there are some questions that really need answers. And I think a lot of brewers in Maryland are doing that. I see some trends where it does look like, in other places where it might look like they're just seeing what sticks to the wall. But Maryland brewers seem to understand that they're asking a real question and trying to get a real answer. And, that's the way a lot of conversations about beers here start, is Aaron will come to me or I'll go to him and go, I wonder what happens if. And, and if we're lucky, we get a chance to fit it into the schedule and explore it.
That's really cool.
I see that, and I have a lot of really close friends in this industry who I respect a lot. And that's what I see out of them. And I'm really, I like, seeing that kind of work. And I think when the reckoning comes, and it will, because the things ebb and flow. They go to a certain outlandish style, but they always come back to the classics. And I think when things come back to the classics, when that reckoning comes, I think Maryland's going to be in good stead, because these brewers are doing what the market demands, like you said, but they started off as very solid brewers who made excellent beer to begin with. So I think they're going to adjust well.
Are there any currently you're a little less excited to watch?
I'm not a hazy guy. And that's personal for me. I'm not denouncing them. I've just never found them incredibly interesting. I used to not be so big on Kettle Sours until I had a few here at Antietam, and Aaron's really good at making them. And so I've really enjoyed them. My mind can be changed. I'm not as thick-skulled as some people might like to believe. But, I think when I start seeing like ingredients that are prone to spoilage, rancidity and stuff like that, I really start to raise my eyebrows and wonder what's going on. And I'm seeing a lot of that across the nation, of ingredients that are of questionable stability ending up in beer. And especially the exploding can problem. Keep it cold. Product safety is not on the consumer. And I feel very strongly about that. You got to refrigerate your chicken. I get it. But if you don't refrigerate your chicken and, but if you get the chicken and it's spoiled, that's not on the consumer. And if you get a can that's prone to explosion, that's not on the consumer. So I don't like seeing those things. And that's something here we are adamant about, is we make sure things are fermented. We make sure things are stable. We lose cellar time to it, but it's way better than having a pissed off customer, an injured customer, destroyed product, bad reputation. We'd much rather lose a few days cellar time and keep the brand intact, without a doubt.
It's a good approach.
It's an approach everyone here embraces, and even our contract clients, they like us because they know we do that. Nothing gets, we make sure, even if it's going to be a couple days late, they understand and they're on board that we want the product to get there safely and be shelf stable.
So it kind of sounds like, from the contract point of view, you've already offered up what the expectation should be. We're not gonna try to mess with your flair and make our brand over kind of heavy-handed on your brand. We're going to adopt what you're trying to show, but we also are going to have some say on safety and the concerns that we have for what that beer is going to look like when it goes into the marketplace. And as soon as they're cool with that, you guys are good to go.
Right, and they understand that that's a mutual thing. And the only time we really unilaterally do things is when we simply are not capable of doing something. We don't have the same equipment they do or whatever. And they understand that too. That's, those things happen. Everybody has different brewing systems. Everybody has different equipment. But that rarely happens. So yeah, we never heavy hand our clients. We just tell them what we're capable of doing, and they are, so far, we're capable of doing things much to their satisfaction. So they keep coming back and bringing us more stuff, and we love them. They're a great guy. And another thing I'm lucky about in this job is the people we contract with, I know, and I genuinely like. So when they come visit and they come to do a brew with us or whatever, or they come to drop things off, it's great. And it's nice to have that personal investment in what you're doing. You're not just professionally trying to be a great brewer, which is always a motivation, but you're also trying to do the best you can for a real friend. And and that bleeds into, if you have somebody who comes in who you don't know, you still treat them that way because that's the way you've been accustomed. So even if brewer X comes in and we have no idea who they are, we still treat them with that personal attention, because that's what we're accustomed to, because we personally know the people we already brewed for. And we do our best for them on a personal and a professional level.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the portfolio at Antietam. We talked a little bit about the philosophy behind it, but what does the portfolio look like? I recall the days of the more traditional American craft beers with a few kind of German flared beers coming out of Antietam's brewery. What does the overall portfolio look like? Where are you guys making adjustments to styles that are kind of outperforming others or underperforming styles?
Really, our core has been steady. There have been shifts in what's the better selling of some of them, but we haven't had to make too many adjustments to the cores, which is nice. People are really happy with where they're at. And as our core, we have a golden, which is gluten reduced. Started doing that recently because of the demand on that. A Hefeweizen, which I particularly really love. It's the real deal, 60% wheat, just a really solid Hefe. And the number of people we get, who are veterans who've been to Germany or just traveled to Germany and say, man, this is the real deal, is really gratifying. We do have one kind of non-traditional, which is we have a hazy pale ale called Blind Ambition. That's a core. That's a really drinkable, approachable beer, even for a grandpa like me. It's a good party beer. It's good lawnmower beer, good hot weather beer. We have our red ale that's outstanding, our brown ale, and we have a milk stout that's part of the core. And they're all good, old school, just solid, clean beers. And then, for our seasonals, that's where we get, we turn that party half of our brain on and, do some things that, the other half really enjoys, the more out there, interesting ingredients, kind of non-traditional stuff.
As a trained and educated maker, how are you feeling about the pastry stout world? Are you finding a way to bridge that gap and bring interesting stuff into beer?
Actually, yeah. Beside from the coffee one, we just did a hazelnut stout with all natural hazelnut flavoring. That excellent, real nice oatmeal stout, nice roasty oatmeal stout that And the natural hazelnut flavoring, because of the way it was made, was actually technically nut free. It was an allergen free thing, because of the way it's made. So it's actually, and I that was something I had to insist on, because my girlfriend, the mother of my daughter, who I live with, has a life threatening nut allergy, and I said, look, I can't go home every day covered in hazelnut paste. Just because I think killing my girlfriend is probably rude. And so we found these great all natural, real deal hazelnut flavors that are allergen free, and made this really beautiful beer. We we are finding those roots to do those things. Like we have a chocolate cherry. We still have a little bit of our chocolate raspberry milk stout on that we had for Valentine's Day, and we do some of those things. So yeah, we are finding that. The tiramisus and some of the more culinary flavor ones, I haven't had a chance to try too many of them. So I can't really comment. I like the idea of culinary motivated beers. I think it's an interesting topic to explore. I think there's a lot of interesting questions to ask there. So, hopefully I'll get a chance to try a few more. They tend to be south of the Potomac, most of the ones I hear about. So hopefully I'll get a chance to try a few of those and kind of figure out, what's going on there.
Absolutely. So as you guys are expanding things over there, what's the summer look like at Antietam? You said something about more outdoor space. We've got live music coming up. What can people expect when they're coming out to visit over the Tuesday to Sunday that you're open?
Great beer, great food. We have a lot of rotating live musicians that are excellent that come through. As a matter of fact, in May, I'll be one of the live musicians playing. I'm a singer in a band called The Cleanup. And we've played here once before. We'll be playing here again. A lot of outdoor stuff when George gets the smoker going here soon. We'll have things like pig roasts and just we have some cruise-ins of old classic cars that we do. We have what's called our Hero Fest or First Responder Fest every year, where we celebrate, the first responders in our area. And hopefully we'll have COVID under control enough when that finally happens again later this year that we'll be able to do the full scale event. We had to really scale it back this in 2020, like a lot of people did. We're just like a lot of breweries, we're a fun-loving place, and we like to have fun, interesting things going on. We've had karaoke here. We have live comedy here, and something to just keep everybody's brain sparked and taste buds tapping, so it's really what's going on here from day to day can be really a fun crapshoot. It can be a good time.
Sounds like a good reason for people to come out there and see what's happening.
Yeah, and definitely follow us on all of our social medias. Justin and Matt have us on every social media platform that's ever been invented, and they keep up with us, because you'll see that we have three weekends of pretty large scale regional band concerts. Jester and Bobby D and the Truck Stop Burritos. Some people may have heard of them, and bands that are real road warriors that have a real following. So in addition to the local musicians who really deserve a spotlight, we'll have some regional guys who come in that people know and can come dance to as well.
And for the folks that are tuning in who might be looking for Antietam cans on shelves around Maryland, what releases do you guys have coming out in the next couple of weeks or in the next few days that you guys are excited about and you'd like people to know about?
Well, we just released yesterday the Tropical Magic, which is the pineapple mango lactose sour. There's about an acre of mango puree in there. It's pretty impressive. And very stable, all fermented out. We are doing a collab with Old Mother called Elegance. That is a chocolate and cherry cream ale. That'll be coming out soon. And there's almost 200 pounds of pure Montmorency cherry puree in there, and some beautiful organic chocolate extract that smells just like toasted cocoa nibs. So it's going to be a really nice beer. We just released a couple weeks ago Backdraft, which is an imperial version of our red ale with whole coffee beans in it that I think is just absolutely delightful. We still have our Planet Dunkel, which is a chocolate Dunkelweizen. Again, a really well done Dunkelweizen with some great organic chocolate extract in it. Sledgehammer is an Idaho Gem hazy IPA we just brewed. They'll be coming out soon. That's in the fermenter. So just all sorts of stuff. And then soon we'll be brewing Antietam 500, our 500th beer at the brewery, which is a big deal that we're very excited about. It'll be an Imperial hazy IPA where we'll actually do 2 separate mashes and only take the first runnings. So it's going to be a monster. So there are things happening here. Oh my goodness, I think I lost you. So my host is frozen. I wonder if I should do a song, dance, comedy bit. So, how many of you are from out of town?
Thank you for keeping the show going. We are having the most wild windstorm here in Frederick. And it just knocked out all of my internet and power. So it just like all shot back on. So I
there you go.
Jumped in while you were talking about a dunkel, like my router reconnected and then it shot down again. So I apologize.
That's no problem. When I finished talking and you were just staring at me, I was like, "Oh man, I've bored him to death." Look at that.
Yeah, I literally just passed.
No, so
I
apologize,
Brett. Christian from Frank About Beer did want you to keep keep
talking. Yeah. Christian's a good man.
To everybody tuning in, I apologize for the awkwardness there. I truly do. Thanks, Brett, for keeping that going. So, sounded like there were at least 4 or 5 beers in that list.
Another thing I used to do in my former life was I was with an improv group called Charlotte Comedy Theater. So, fortunately, I've learned how to BS my way through a lot of awkward situations.
I was going to say you have the delivery of somebody who studied comedy. So,
yeah. Never did stand up. Stand up's terrifying, but improv when you got other people, that's that's fun.
Everything I listen to on podcasts that are improv driven, I've learned one thing from them all, and that's that they all like that yes and style.
Yes, and that is one of the pillars. Yes, the pillars. Don't say no. No kills the scene. Yes, you got to say yes and. But the other side of that is you don't pimp your scene partner. So you don't ask them stuff like, can I cut off your head? And you're like, well, no. It's like you gotta take
be respectful of the boundary that they want to go.
That's right. Yes.
So where can people find Antietam beer outside of Washington County and outside of Hagerstown?
We have a nice following in Baltimore, thanks to Backup Beverage. Free State takes our stuff to a lot of places. We are in Northern Virginia through Fermentation. I know you can find us in some Total Wines and places like that. But I know Downtown Crown carries us, Gillies, places like that. I frequently have friends, will text me and say, "Hey, I was just in, a store in Germantown, found your stuff." And there actually is a retailer list on our website as well, AntietamBrewery.com, so you can access that and look it up. But anywhere good craft beer is, you're going to find us, where we have a good, solid distribution network, and we're out there, and we're waiting for your calls.
And to kind of bring us to a little bit of a closure for this afternoon, let's talk a little bit about beer and food pairing. I think you'd be a great person to share some insight. So for folks that are making a plan over the next few weeks and they're out at their local Packy, or they're coming through Washington County and they want to grab some Antietam beer, what are some pairings with your lineup that you can recommend?
I mean, there are some that are just real classics, like Hefeweizen and any German food you can think of. Basically, Our coffee red ale, our backdraft would be great with barbecue. Just really wonderful stuff. The red ale and the brown ale are pretty much, if you're going to have a steak for the evening, a burger, those are really great things. If you want to have a nice fruity dessert, get yourself a Tropical Magic to complement that. And it just, that's really delicious. If you're going to have chocolate, some big chocolate bomb, come get Raise the Dead, our coffee imperial stout. That'll make life nice. Or even just Little Ben's, our house milk stout. They're, those are both really just outstanding compliments, or with roast foods. So if you're going to have, a nice big prime rib or something like that, the Raise the Dead and the milk stout will be really good matches for that as well. The roast of the coffee and the Raise the Dead will really bring out the roast in your meat. Or if you got a nice sweet ribeye like that, the Little Ben's milk stout will bring out that natural sweetness and a good cut of beef. That will really be a nice compliment. So yeah, there's, and if you're going to mow the lawn, get yourself some Blind Ambition. Going to sit by the pool. Great, nice, juicy hazy. That is just outstanding for when you're going out fishing or, need a few beers to put in the golf cart because golf weather is back now. So yeah, there's a lot here that goes well with food, and our chef tries to use our beer as much as he can. He makes milk stout gravy here to go on when he makes disco fries, which is one of my favorite things ever. Good disco fries, and he braises all of his sausages in one of our beers, depending on what kind of sausage he makes. He'll pick different ones, and yeah. So without a doubt, there's a lot of good food pairing beers here, and those classic styles are great for that. They're great food beers, man. And a lot of them are made to complement a local cuisine because, the people from Munich were eating certain things and those beers went really well with them, and things like that.
I think that's an episode for a later date, is a beer and food pairing episode, because there is a whole lot of truth to that. The beer really complements the cuisine more than the cuisine fitting the beer.
Well, and funny, there are things for which beer is, there are classic kind of things that are really almost a myth, like wine and cheese. Wine and cheese, and a lot of wine experts will tell you this, aren't really a great match. Yep. Because cheese is very waxy and it'll deaden your palate to a lot of the acidity of wine and things in wine that make wine work. Whereas beer doesn't do that. And if you've never had an excellent barley wine or old school English pale ale with a slice of cheddar, you haven't lived. Man, it's or blue cheese with an excellent barley wine. There are some beer and food pairings out there that will blow a lot of people's minds because they think of beer as a standalone beverage. I'm just going to a party, I'm going to drink a bunch of beer. And believe me, beer and food are where it's at. And I know guys like Garrett Oliver and a few others have really tried to drive that point home, but it definitely bears repeating that there are places where beer works where wine just never will, and vice versa. Granted, there are places where wine is the stronger pairing, but there are places where beer works where wine and other things just won't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like there's no such thing as a good chocolate wine. Just no such thing.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I've seen a few arguments saying that maybe some high tannin wines would work well with a nice chocolate. You get the fatty thing, but then, I think that there's way too much, at least in the American palate, there's way too much lean on sweetened chocolates, and those really are going to kill your experience with wine, I think.
Yeah, and I've even talked to a lot of wine people, and they say, beer's got it all over wine when it comes to chocolate. There's just certain things that are slam dunks, the stouts and the porters and even a few other things outside of that roasted beer realm. But yeah, it's, but on the other hand, it's hard to beat an outstanding glass of port as a digestif. Beer, there's no beer that really kind of gets there, and you can argue Old Foghorn, which is one of my favorite beers in the face of the planet. And, but really, I mean, there are certain things like dessert wines where beer just doesn't, and if you try to make a beer that's sweet, it's just not an enjoyable experience. So beer. But there are places where beer just has it all over wine, and I think more people need to know that.
Well, I think
I love wine. I'm talking as somebody who's a wine lover. Believe me, it's just the case.
I think we've got an opportunity to have that chat, and I'd love to have you back to be involved with that, because I think you bring some great perspective to the beer.
Oh, thank you. I would love to. That would be a lot of fun. And if we had, a local vintner to talk to, I love talking to people on the other sides of the alcohol spectrum, because I don't get to as often as I would like. I'm fortunate enough to have, through social media, gotten to know a few distillers and winemakers, and it's really nice to hear what how they feel about a lot of these things, because it's a different world.
It's interesting that all of you have such similar creative aspirations and outlets that it still feels so far away when you're talking about the products that you're making.
Yeah, because fermentation is fermentation, right? But the way you get grapes to ferment is just so wildly different from the way you get barley to ferment. And then when you introduce distillation, well, that is an entirely different science. And yeah, so even though we have this one thing connecting us together, the spokes on the wheel really go far out.
That's it. All right. Well, Brett, thank you for giving me a afternoon of yours. I really appreciate it. It was great chatting with you. I apologize for the internet snafu there. So if anybody who's viewing got snagged up, I apologize to you as well. We appreciate you guys tuning in every week. Please go out and support Antietam Brewery. Check them out. Their location is super convenient, right off of 81. You're what, like a minute and a half off the exit?
We actually, 81 runs past our back parking lot. Yeah, we are. Yeah, you get off 81 and the very next right turn is Western Maryland Parkway. So we're really easy to get to. We're easy to get to from 70 as well. You just get off 70 at Route 40, and that takes you to Western Maryland Parkway. We're hard to miss. We really are.
That's the truth.
Nice. And we're not just a beer stop. Of course, you can come in, get some 4-packs and head out, do whatever you need to do. Everybody's got plans, but if you stay and have some of George and Max's food, you will be far from sorry. I guarantee it.
And I did mention in the comments to go check out their website for that retailer locator and for a lineup of all of the beers that they have available. It's awesome to have you guys on. It's been a long time coming, so I appreciate it. And if you're out there tuning in either live or in the next couple of hours, have a safe weekend. Please enjoy it with some Maryland beer. Be responsible. Check out what we're doing at marylandbeer.org, and have a safe one. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, Brett. Have a great weekend.
Take care.